Okay, good evening. This is our Monday, March 4th work session for our town council. If we can have a roll call, please.
Shannon?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Kathy?
Here.
I'm sorry, Edwards?
Here.
Cavazos? Day?
Here.
Lee?
Here. All right. In our work session, I think if we'd like, we're going to switch things around here a little bit. Let's do item number 4 to start out with, if that's okay, no objections.
Since we kind of already.
So with that, here's why we kind of put it on the, as a work session item. Couple things come to mind. The first one was, in looking at our budget, you look at some of our committee meetings are now going into the red by the amount of money that's paid and budgeted for having meetings. And looking at the treasurer, we looked at, it looks like only one meeting was budgeted per committee. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
Okay. For example, the ARB meetings were only scheduled for one, and due to either workload or different things that have come up, they've had work sessions, and now we're in the red there. So, and looking at that, we have to find out where are we going awry here. There
Plus
was,
also, I think, maybe moving forward for the next budget with everything that's going on in town, we might want to.
exactly.
Yeah.
We might want to adjust that to maybe make it a 2 meeting for those per month versus a 1 meeting. I know with our council, I think we did up to a maximum of 3, is as far.
Yes, so for the
Or planning?
council, sir, you're correct. It's a maximum of 3 meetings a month.
That you budgeted for.
That we budgeted for, yes.
Right. So looking at that, there was also some discussion, I know early on, whether or not we could have a pay increase. And that was, I don't think that ever actually made it to a work session agenda or anything, because obviously for those who are not new, you can't vote a raise in for an existing council. So you can do it for the next council and change the rates or anything like that. So there was that question. And then the amount of monies that are being given out for the stipend that we get for the chair and the members, and then how that actually equals out on the committees as well. For example, the chair of the town council is $125. The members receive $100 stipend per meeting. We agreed on, I think, it was the last meeting or the meeting before, that we would include any type of work session that's included in the meeting that we're already here to be all-inclusive. In other words, we will run it right in. It's not 2 separate meetings being paid. And I think there was an agreement, if not by resolution, at least by consensus of the council. One other thought is the committees, that they receive, I think, $75 for the chair, and then $60 for the members. Now, there's also liaisons that come off of the town council that serve in those capacities as well. And I think there was maybe, and this may be years ago, there was some discussion of whether or not they got the same amount as the rest of the dais sitting, or whether or not they kept their council member meeting thing. So I throw this out here just to make sure we're all on the board, and then we can kind of like finally put a resolution to it to lock it down to where we all know that, you know, for budgeting, planning, that we know where we're at. So I'll open up for discussion.
It's been my understanding the whole time, and myself being liaison to the planning commission, that I get what the planning commission does. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think that's the way it should be.
Okay. One other thing else I wanted to put in there too is that there was a three meeting max. So I think for those who were back in 2014, I believe, that when we came up, it was one of the first things we did after election was there wasn't going to be all these continuation meetings. There was typically a continuation to the point it's like, look, this is sort of out of control. And as a council, they decided, okay, look, there'll be no person is not going to receive more than three meetings, whether or not, whatever they attend, whether or not it's on the council or whatever. So I think that needs to be clarified too, or at least have that understanding, or see if that's what we all agree on going forward too. Because, you know, typically we only have one council meeting. So if you had one council and if you served on the, say, planning commission and also went to a work session, there's your 3, you know. So So with that, I just wanted to add that point too as well. So, other thoughts?
Do you want, Mayor, if I may, do you want to talk about each one individually, or do you want to just
I'm just, yeah,
soundboard all of them at the same time?
I think soundboard and just see if we can, because I did kind of hit on a lot of different areas there.
Okay.
It sounds like most of us already agree on what was already written, but I think that clarifying it or just locking it down a little bit further.
Indeed. So in regards to the 3 meetings, that's how I would interpret it as well. That as a town council member, we'd get paid for no more than 3 meetings a month. I know that we had budgeted less for the planning commission as well as the ARB, because usually they don't meet more than once or twice a given month. But I think that theirs should as well be maxed out as 3, just for the mere fact that we don't want anyone there just to be scheduling meetings as what was sometimes done in the past, just to collect the paycheck, to make sure that we're physically responsible and to make sure that we are conducting the business at those meetings and getting that business done rather than just continuing it throughout the month. In my regards to the liaison position, since it is a council member being a liaison to that ARB board or to that planning commission board, in my opinion, I believe they should be paid as a council member, because they are at that council member pay rate, because they are a liaison of the council member. They're giving the council's perspective on a given matter, as well as when they're coming back to the dais, they're informing us about those boards and keeping us up to date. So in my opinion, in regards to the liaison, I think they should be paid at the council member pay rate, just because they are acting as a council member at that dais there. The events, as I believe it was in previous times when we had a finance committee, we had a chair and vice chair, and those chair and vice chair were paid for that meeting, and then anyone who attended in addition to did not receive payment, because it was those two running the meeting. I'm sorry?
No, I was just checking, Roberta was going to check on that, just to clarify,
Wrong.
for like a finance committee where you had,
So the finance committee, prior, a few years, the chair and the member that got appointed were paid. Everyone else did not get paid. They attended the meeting, but they did not get paid for those meetings.
okay.
How many members were there, the finance committee?
I believe when I was here, there was 3. There was a chair, Councilman Aiken, and members were Mr. Pasanello and John Cole. And I believe mayor and the town manager and the chief would attend the meeting.
In regards to future finance committee meetings, are we going to be paid for them? In my personal opinion, I say no. That's just given time that I go ahead and give towards that, just as we do for some folks with the events committee. Not expected to be paid, just a voluntary coming to. Again, that's just my opinion. There's a lot of other opinions at the dais. In regards to your question about the raise, I believe Councilwoman Cavazos had brought that up in regards to. I'd love to hear her opinion on what we're thinking for next term. But outside of that, those are my thoughts.
Okay, all right.
Whatever the pay structure now, I'm okay with it. Planning Commission, and ARB, I serve with ARB, also Planning Commission, the payment is stay as it is.
Okay.
And no increase for the town council either.
Okay, all right. Vice Mayor.
Want me to go?
Yep.
I agree. I know this has gone back and forth over many years about the liaisons, and I have to say that I agree with Connor about that. You are representing the council, you bring the information back. There are times when you need to have discussions or come in and meet with Emily to share things that happen at the meetings and follow up. So, that little bit of pay, covers that added responsibility that you have. So I feel like you should get paid as a council member. The 3 meetings a month, I guess I'm okay with that. I feel like everyone should get paid for doing their work, but, that's what we've been doing. And what was the other thing? The committees. If we're gonna meet as, and talk about finance, maybe quarterly, we probably shouldn't have pay for that. However, if it's going to be a structured thing and people are going to come every month and you're going to have a chair and a vice chair, whether it be for the events, for the finance, whatever, I think that those council members should be compensated for that. Okay,
Okay.
I think I got it all.
As far as the liaison position, I feel like I'm going to leave that up to others who aren't a liaison to kind of lead that. I don't feel comfortable saying that that I would want more in that regard. But if everybody else, feels good about that, then I would too. As far as giving an increase, which I did bring up earlier in our term, Jerry Shiro said that we were in line with the other towns, and so I feel comfortable leaving it the way that it is after he did that research, and I appreciate him doing that. And then as far as the 3 meetings a month, being paid for 3 and no more, that's fine with me as well, especially after hearing from Roberto that it's going to be a tight fiscal year. And did I miss anything else?
I don't think so. Right?
What was that?
Oh, the other committees, the finance and the events.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we don't need to be paid in addition for those extras.
Okay.
I'm pretty much on the same page as everybody else on most of it, all of it, I guess. As far as the events committee issue of it, I don't know, I'm a little bit on the fence. I do think, when people put in their extra time for those and they spend the time as a town council member or whatever it may be for those things, they do deserve the compensation for that. But I'm, at the same time, like you say, if it's voluntary, then there's that aspect too. So there's my comments.
Okay.
I'm kind of on the fence.
I just want to clarify one thing with this. So those, myself, and who's the other liaison, Bond? And,
PC, ARB, and
PCRB has IUs, I think, right?
Yes.
yeah, but I'm talking about for the council members. So we have basically 8 meetings a month. 4 council, 4 planning commission.
how are we getting that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of meetings just to go to.
Never mind.
Yeah.
It's my cold medicine acting
Yeah.
up, I guess.
Yeah.
Never mind,
Yeah.
I got it. I'm good with the
Good?
3, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the 3, even, very rarely, as you know, we have a continuation meeting.
Yeah.
The only exception may be a public hearing that was only specific, which once a year, if that. So I think we're still good with, we're counting extra on the town council side, and then you're able to then serve on other committees and still get paid as well. So I think, did we get a consensus? I think the only part that I kind of got fuzzy with would be just the event, so whether or not to get paid. I think we had a yes, no.
In reality, let me just make another comment and I'm gonna shut up. Anybody that's in this for money, they're losers. Anybody watching us out there feel we're in it for money, they're losers as well.
Yeah.
No argument.
Some of us pay more in taxes than what we actually get. But I am perfectly fine with representing the town council at the planning commission. I will go with majority rules there. Promise I'm not in this for the money.
Right. Yeah,
Exactly. You echo my thoughts there.
exactly. Just to kind of dovetail on this, I attended the TNV meeting this past week, and during that, they had council benefits as one of their topics, go figure. And in hearing the different, yeah, right. So in hearing the different municipalities speak, and everything from what the mayor makes, the stipling for that, to council members, there was, I think, almost a split there, too, of most of them actually don't receive a stipling. I think, was it Jerry that mentioned, I think Lou Ray, they do not receive. So, having a small stipling seems like in line. What we have here as well is in line with the other municipalities. Some of them actually even looked at more benefits that, as I guess things happened, they're afforded, like the insurance that the town would offer. Of course, they pay for it entirely, but to actually have that as an added benefit, that was kind of, eye-opening to myself. But, okay, so I think, maybe we can be able to, now at least that we've talked about this, draft and make sure that what we have in place is tweaked with the wording to make sure that we've covered all these areas that might be left to interpretation. Yeah. Any other thoughts with that?
Well, I think the question is do you want to have a finance committee? And
Well,
that's
yeah,
the
we have
first
to
question,
decide
yes
that.
or no. And then from there, what is the pay structure? Because if it's a yes thing, then you're discussing what is the pay structure for the chair and the vice chair and any members. And then is any council member being paid if they attend that? Then, if it's a no for the committee, then is folks going to be paid for it or are they not?
Well, that's
So,
a
I
good
guess
question.
the
So maybe we
question
can
is,
go around just
do
with
we
that.
have
Well, I
finance
was going
committee?
to say, could we get Roberto's feedback on, does he feel that maybe having a meeting quarterly, just to update those, and if there are any things we need to look at, or something like that, if that works for him, or he feels like he needs more support throughout the year?
Well, in regards to the finance meeting, I'm always here. I'm always available to you and to the residents. If there's any questions, concerns, I'm always here. But to go to a quarterly, if that is something the council wishes to do, we could do that too, as well, to have a meeting quarterly. But then again, you don't have to wait for the quarter to come talk to me about any of the regards. Yeah.
But, I mean,
Or maybe what is the better question is the budget work session, because that's where it really comes down to, is the
that's
budget
separate
work.
from the finance committee, to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of put them together as it comes towards budget season. The finance and budget kind of work hand in hand as we go through the line items there. So, I mean, and right now, being in the budget, we have a date set for March here that we're going to be going to. So basically, we have I guess per se, a finance committee, well, it's not a committee, a meeting, but more of a budget meeting.
I mean,
Yep.
once a quarter, could we use our work session ahead of time to focus on,
Yeah.
on the finances, and then that kind of
Good point.
gets it on both
Yeah.
sides of it? I mean, I don't know, it's just a way,
Great idea.
we're all here.
Yeah.
We could just make it part of
So.
course, we'll be limited
my-
for time,
My
but
opinion,
we
I
can-
don't think so. I don't think so. We need a finance committee.
Right.
No, I think that's a great point, Vice Mayor, in regards to utilizing the work session time, whether it be that one meeting we start 30 minutes earlier, or that's just the number one action item that we talk
Yeah.
about on the work session, to see if there's anything that needs to be brought up for discussion, or any concerns, any regards to a budget amendment that would
And
be.
Roberto can give us maybe a little bit more in-depth report as to how things are going for that quarter, if we,
Yep.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think that'd be good consensus then. Great, all right, good. All right,
Well, then, the next question then is the budget work sessions. Are those meetings, or are those not meetings?
that is a meeting. I would think that a budget meeting is a
I think
meeting.
it is.
Yeah, it's a town council acting and yep,
because when you have a work session, right, for
Yeah.
for your boards, that's considered a meeting.
Yep.
Right?
yeah, I think there's,
Unless it's on the same night as your regular meeting, then,
yeah, and I think as we've gotten clarification from Martin in the past too, just because it says work session does not limit you not to taking action. And we've had his legal opinion on that. So it's basically, you're having a meeting, you're labeling it work session, but it is a meeting that you have agenda, you can take action on your agenda items. Yep.
Perfect.
All right.
I just want to make, as we have it out there, might as well clarify and make
No,
sure everyone's on
great.
the same page.
so are we gonna come up with a resolution?
Yeah, so,
and
yeah,
then-
I think Shelley has come up with a draft one,
draft
and we
here.
just might have to tweak that a little
Later.
bit. But yeah, it's going to be an
Okay.
agenda item
Okay.
to discuss for tonight. Great. Okay, let's go back over to our playground proposal. See our updates for that.
Sure wish I had a computer screen to look at. Oh, look, that's the next.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
So for our playground discussion, unfortunately, I have not received any more proposals. I'm getting the same feedback. They don't want to touch the idea of it because we don't have enough money that we're willing to spend on it at this time. Most of them, for what we want, the playground, the swings, and then a couple other features, all on wood carpeting, would, they're saying run us 60,000, but we've found this company that works in Prince William, has certified inspectors, and they've given us option 1 and 2, which you've seen before and have the proposals for. So, since we are nearing the end of our fiscal year, I was hoping that tonight we could discuss any outstanding concerns and then also make a decision on the playground. One suggestion that I wanted to put out there is if we go with one of these options, I think we should go ahead and plan that for next fiscal year, we have an immediate phase 2 that adds additional handicap accessible or inclusive play options. And we go ahead tonight and say in phase 2, next fiscal year, we would like to spend X amount of money. I was speaking with Roberto last week on how much we could budget for the park again next year, and I think it would be very reasonable for us to go ahead and say that we want to set 20,000 aside for next fiscal year to do more inclusive options. In option 2, if you remember, we still have the Unity rocker that would give an immediate inclusive play option. However, if we build out this year, in the summer, we could immediately jump into planning the next phase and have that built in the spring. So that would include, Councilman Leak, that would include the handicap wheelchair accessible swing from a third-party vendor that playground specialists would be able to install, insure, and maintain for us. And then that would also give us some wiggle room to have a couple other, whether it be musical playthings or other items that the children would be able to come right up to in a wheelchair or some other kind of accessible piece of equipment. So, any questions or concerns?
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I like the idea of the musical things. I've been at several places that they have those items, and they're really cool, and everybody plays with them. Even the adults I've seen. Would the plan leave the space in the area for these inclusive items such as the,
So what I was actually gonna have Evan come out and do, he's our representative for this company. If we move forward with one of these options, I was gonna ask him to come out and stake everything out with me so we can see how close it'll be to where our sidewalk eventually will go, back it off from that, and then see what we have left in the remaining area, and have him go ahead and plan out phase 2 for us. And it could end up with, if you look at option 2 picture, it could end up with us having a little L shape, or we just extend the back side of it so that they can lay more wood carpeting, and it's a very simple addition. We wouldn't be able to fit it within here because the swings require so much safety zone for when they go up and legs and people.
yeah.
So it would just be an addition back. And these trees are not actually there, that's just their aesthetics.
Yeah, got it.
It's a very open area, so.
Yeah, it's
Okay, thank you.
57.
What about the color, Emily, for,
The color
The
will
additional.
all go to the ARB, but everything will, they have a color scheme. I know you guys, I think, have black and white versions, but in the very bottom, there's a green, beige, and brown color scheme, and that would be applied to the entire
the
playground.
additional pieces that
Yes.
are added later?
Mhm.
So the other pieces are available in the same color scheme?
Yes, it's all from their company. We would stick with them, because that way they will insure and maintain everything.
And the wheelchair swing
Under their
too?
warranty.
Okay,
That'll be from a third party, but we'll get color matched.
okay.
So you're looking from the dais of, obviously, you have a draft motion for a regular agenda item proposed to get this moving.
Correct, and I would look for, in that draft motion, if you want to go with option 1 or option 2, and the difference is option 2 has the Unity rocker, which is just one more piece of equipment. It is the inclusive piece of equipment that I have right now. And then also maybe a directive to go ahead and work with the playground specialist to come up with a phase 2, so we can keep moving on that.
What is the price of the swing?
So the swing, the addition of the wood carpeting and the installation, we're looking at 10 to 15,000.
So have we gone out to bid, or have we got a quote from that third party? Because obviously this vendor does not, they stated they do not do it, but a third party does it, so that, have we got a quote from that third party saying 10 to 15?
Not yet, that's just looking at their
What
product
this-
catalog and then taking that product, giving it to this group and asking what it would cost to install.
Okay, and then, so we have 63 budgeted for the Hare Park budget. So out of that 63, have we spent any of that amount on other items?
We have spent some money on it. I was looking to keep the playground under 40 so that in the next few months, if something were to come up, or if we build out and we realize we need something else in addition to what we have planned here, we have some room for this was forgotten. It will also cover our fence that we want to put in around the entire playground.
What's the cost of the fence?
That I have not budgeted out. We're looking to speak with one of the fencing companies for a sponsorship.
What I'm getting at is if it's an additional 10 to 15, why not just knock this project out, make it the best project, make it inclusive for everyone within the community and the surrounding area? And yes, it's an additional somewhere between 10 to 15, but knock it out, get it done with. I understand that there's question of, well, what if something else comes up? But my take on it is I'd rather see a smiling face on that swing rather than be sitting there worried about if it was over or under. Thoughts?
I'm just worried that it's not enough money to get the fence and everything.
I'm high on the fence, I will just tell you, for
No,
safety
yeah.
purposes. But this is going to be the big expense initially. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
this
can-
is the big expense here.
We can push the fence to next fiscal year as well. So if we go to build by June, which is ideal, then as soon as July, we can turn it around and get the fence in. So that's another option too. And it might take us that long anyway, to get
I'm
be able
big
to
on the
put the
fence,
fence
like
on.
Steve said
I
though
don't think we
too.
should open the park
Yeah.
without a fence.
Fence,
Yeah.
Have you talked to any fence companies yet at all
Not yet.
about maybe? I would ask that you do that sooner rather than later, because that's a
We're-
big part of this, obviously. And I know
understandable.
you've been working your tail off on this.
So one of the things that I'm struggling with to go talk to a fencing company is we don't have anything set in stone on the size.
Right.
So they don't want to touch it until we can tell them the size, the location, the utilities, things like that. So
It's what comes first, the chicken
Yeah.
or the egg. It's
Well, what's the difference in sizes between option 1 and option 2? Of the mat itself, the area? Is there a big difference?
there's a 300 square foot difference.
I would take the larger and try to get that supported.
Or even 2 quotes. It's not
And
going to be
then
hard
if-
for them to
I'm
give
sorry,
2.
go ahead.
It's not going to be hard for them to give us 2 quotes, even 3 quotes in regards to if we're adding in the ADA accessible swing. I mean, it's a square footage calculation to them. The layout is not going to change that much. I mean, it's going to be a rectangle. It's not like we're adding in loop-de-loops around the area. It's still going to be a rectangular. And so it's just a square footage calculation to them in regards to what the size is, and then they'll give us that number based off of it.
Adding in the handicap swing will change the square footage, so I'll have to go back and get new drawings on that and new proposals.
I'm just saying, if we're reaching out to them, you may not have a solid proposal, but you'll have a ballpark figure of what we would need, and get a commitment, see if you can get a commitment from them. If you can get a commitment from them, great. I would tell them exactly what we're facing right now, but that the fence is very important to us, and then use maybe the larger calculation, the larger fenced area, and just say this would be maximum, could be less, depending, but just to maybe see if we can get any bites on one of the companies, just supporting us or whatever, just an idea.
Other thoughts?
Anybody? I'm just thinking that if you do so the bid's 40, right?
Correct.
If you go worst-case scenario for the 15 to have everything, right? That takes us to 55. I don't think we're gonna be able to get a fence for $8,000.
Well, the thought is that this is work being done in June, and depending on which budget it hits, so.
I'm just saying, I guess we have to make a decision. Are we gonna phase it or are we not gonna phase it? Are we just gonna do it?
I think we could just do it, and then we could also, like Emily was saying, see if anybody would be willing to sponsor it, and we could hopefully like market or advertise their fence.
Well, they could
and-
put a sign
one
up
of
that
the-
says sponsored by,
I think one of the
So-and-so
biggest
fencing company.
struggles of going out for sponsorships right now is not being able to say, here's
What
what's
is?
approved, here's what we want
Yeah.
to do, will you sponsor us?
okay.
It's a big what if. So that's one of the struggles that we're having with that.
And we really need a park. I mean, losing the one by Cookies and Cream was a huge loss for so many families that used it, safe or unsafe. So I think that, we can just do it all. And if we're planning on adding the swing anyway, I feel like we could just have them build it all at the same time. We would probably save money
You're probably right.
possibly than having them come back, having to add, change anything,
That's a good point.
if we're gonna do it anyway.
That's a good point.
Especially if we know that we're budgeting next year's park money. It's just a matter of when the service was performed and, when we signed for each of the
I think
proposals.
that's a good point.
So, the fact that we're doing it right at the cusp of a budget year.
Okay.
Yep. I think we've got that consensus, at least, it
Go
looks
for
like
it.
they get it done. Okay.
Miss Emily, let's talk in regards to fence companies. So let's meet up. There's a couple that would most likely that are local to our area that would that should be able to assist us.
Okay.
Okay. Finishing thoughts on that? If not, we'll move on. Looks like, keep us going here. Next thought is, we're on computers for the dais. As we know, when we look at these massive pieces of paper,
I always
I think there has to be a better way. I know that when we attended VML one year, we looked at going green and how a lot of municipalities go with either tablets or.
That's been 10 years ago.
Yeah, and we continue. If you remember, our last month's packet was it 213?
306.
I'm sorry?
306.
306 pages. Of course, and then what does this paper do afterwards? So the thought was, the staff has been looking at a couple options of being able to,
Well, I'm used to working these mics, not talking into them, so hopefully you can hear me okay. I've been working with Terry Hope, our IT specialist, and so we can be a little more environmentally friendly. We're working on some different options to present to you all, to perhaps have a computer at the dais for each council member and boards and commissions. The computer would stay here, and it would be used during the meetings. It would also cut down on personnel as far as the police having to deliver and printing them out. So just some thoughts. I didn't put it in the packet, but I do have 2 samples of what we've been looking at, just to give you an idea. And then Emily said she had a couple of ideas that she wanted to investigate as well. I can show you those if you'd like. But,
Would this include the planning commission, ARB as
Yeah.
well, to use them?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
so there'll be the limited handouts at the dais. This would be something that's already uploaded, and we would be able
The
to.
agenda's uploaded anyways to, of course, the website, and
Right.
this way it's it would be uploaded here for you as well. So we send it to
Something
you.
that would just stay up here?
Yes, mhm,
Okay.
for all boards and commissions, council to use.
Touch screen, being able to enlarge, shrink down, the color
Keyboard.
aspect of seeing things in color,
How many we
high
need?
def,
Like 8?
at least 7 or 8, yeah, at least 8.
8. So 266 each.
Yeah.
I
that's-
think this is a good investment. I
They
think
pay
we
for
should
it
do
itself in a year.
And we
Yeah.
thought that size screen would be good too, for, for viewing, especially with the
I forget what our
site plans.
colored copies are. When we scan a colored copy is so many cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's an expense, in other words, yeah.
Oh, it's all the
And
same.
some agendas, you have to have color for whatever, if it's a site
Right.
plan or something, we have to have it in color.
So you'll continue to look at it, maybe
Yes,
have
we
something
will.
to
Emily and I
present
have
to
been
us?
working on some other options as well.
Connor, what
And,
size is your screen that you have there?
I believe it's 13.9, 13.7, so
Okay.
it's
So that's a 14.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That one's bigger, right? Emily, yours is bigger.
Yep.
Would it be possible, I don't want to put you through a lot of extra work, would it be possible at the next meeting we discuss this, that we have the figure what it cost us last year for this? For all the printing, you know? Is that easily done or not?
Go by the vendor.
Maintain-
Do a
okay.
vendor search.
Okay, that's fine. If we could do that, it'd be great, just to show not only us on the dais, but the folks out in computer land as well, how much we actually spent and what we're trying to spend.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be questions about it.
We lease
But-
we lease our printer, correct, Roberta? So it's a monthly fee for X amount of sheets that we're printing.
Yes, and we recently changed to a plan with the new printer that actually includes color printing. Prior to this contract, we actually had to pay per page when it comes to color printing.
Yeah.
So this is something that the Shelley and the business manager, Jerry, discussed and got it to be included in our new contract.
But maybe
it's a
just
great idea.
even provide that information to us, like what we pay every month, and then how much it is per page. I mean, we can figure it out on our own. If last month's agenda or
Yeah.
packet was 300 pages, that's, you know.
Kind of our own cost-benefit analysis of why we're doing this, because it's a great idea.
I wouldn't
I
say
think
it,
cost-wise, we will save if we
Oh,
bring the
definitely.
we will save quite a bit money in there.
yeah.
So
We're averaging anywhere between 150 and 300 pages per agenda, times
Per
7, yes.
Per person, and then per committee.
yeah,
And then you figure the extra copy we have to have available. I mean, so this all adds up.
counts paper
Yep.
and time of the spending
Right,
time
putting it together.
making copy, staple,
Putting these together.
Yeah.
Does everyone have access at the dais? Does everyone have access to a computer at home to be able to view? I mean, that's one of
Yes.
the big things.
Yes.
Is making sure that everyone has the ability to actually view this.
I'm sure if we
at-
needed
at
to, we
home.
could come in and take one and
Correct.
bring it back, but.
Kind of preview it at home and then already have it ready for the dais and have it all ready up. Yep.
Okay.
Great, okay.
Job.
Good deal. Moving along. We have, our next item is our streetscape discussion about the crepe myrtles. Here on page 17 of our work session agenda. Miss Emily, I think you can start and I'll fill in where you don't.
Yes. So, coming up on our spring season here, we were looking to, once and for all, kind of clean up the street trees that are leaning strongly towards the east because of the winds that we get through town, as well as the ones that are missing, those that have died. So, in general, we want to pull out all of the ones that are there now. It's a hawthorn tree. There's nothing super special about them, other than they stay a little bit on the smaller side. So we're looking to replace them. One of the suggestions has been crepe myrtles for how they flower throughout the year, and the vision that this would give as you drive down Washington Street and you have the mountains in the background. There are other suggestions if you're interested in native Virginia trees that I can mention. Red maple's one of them. We had talked about that previously. I know back in the day, there were some properties that planted sycamores. I would recommend against this. They'll grow very tall, very quickly, and they also drop a lot of debris, large leaves, branches, seed pods, you name it. So sticking with something that's a little bit smaller, drops a little bit less, and then has good color foliage or flowers would be ideal.
So, go ahead.
How about the roots? I mean, that's a big thing too, going into the sidewalks.
Crepe myrtles, they're not surface roots, they grow down.
Yes.
That's a big advantage of crepe myrtles, is that you don't have the surface roots, so.
Yeah, and our landscaping company that we currently have contract with, Premier, said that those would do well for that reason, that the roots would go down, so we wouldn't have issues with our brick sidewalks.
couple other points. I think they also mentioned about the heat from the asphalt being
Yes.
close to the road, that they do well in that. And as we know, just walking the town, they already were planned in Haymarket Station. They're Crepe Myrtle lined. We have also, I think, Foster's is Foster Building, all Crepe Myrtle. I think in front of Piedmont Tire and Auto, I believe Crepe Myrtle. So as you go down the street, we already have a lot of existing. This would just be giving us that, if you ever been to the town of Manio, North Carolina, that is a crepe myrtle tree-lined town that really looks nice, especially all year round. It's pretty much.
I spoke with
Yep.
Marchant earlier today, and he asked, after seeing the packet, if the council would consider approving like the spending for the trees, but if we would send it to the ARB for just discussing and deciding on like the actual tree itself. Not that anyone's leaning against it, but just that we allow the ARB to decide.
Great.
I would
Well-
also recommend if that's done, that you send it to planning commission, since they do most of the review for our zoning ordinance and the permitted trees, so that they have equal.
Because, to piggyback on that, the crepe myrtle is not
Currently,
currently
yep.
one of our trees. So if we're going to do that, I think we need to clean that up as well. And I did a little bit of research, just quickly, I was going through, and crepe myrtles were planted in Williamsburg, not that we are Williamsburg, I'm not saying that, but they came back in the 1800s, and they used them to show as a sign of wealth. If you had a crepe myrtle planted in front of your home, that was a sign that you were a wealthy family in
I can
Williamsburg.
tell you that's not the case now, because I got one in my backyard.
I said front yard, Steve, not backyard. But that was their sign, that when they brought them over, that was a sign of wealth because they had to come from Asia. They brought the trees over, so.
They're a pretty tree and they're easy to maintain.
Yep.
And I mean, you can treat them as bushes or you can treat them as trees, the way they grow and everything. It's how you condition them or prune them, whatever, so.
How tall do they get?
Depends on how you maintain them.
Yeah.
They can get upwards of, I think, 15 or 20 feet.
Because I also read another article that some towns are moving away from planting trees along the main street because they can interfere with power lines and traffic sight lines and all that kind of stuff, so there's.
That's why it would be important, regardless of what tree we put there, to keep them trimmed. Because I'll
Correct.
speak from the VDOT perspective. Trucks driving down the road are going to be hitting them and everything. So, I mean, but
No, I
that's
agree.
again, the good thing about crepe myrtle, you can keep them trimmed, so.
Yeah, I agree.
So, do we have was there anybody else? Okay. Have a consensus maybe to send this over to the ARB, perhaps to have the crepe myrtle be added into,
That's the planning
Yeah.
commission, I think.
well, we'd also would need that, exactly. And maybe see how, how to, I don't want to say variances, but exceptions are made to our current one. I mean, obviously, this is something we want to plan on doing sooner than later, and I think maybe we'll speak with the council to see how, if it's is a tree that, obviously, at some point, it was, because we wouldn't have it in all these planned
Right.
projects. I think when we went through, someone had just taken it out and didn't realize that it wasn't a tree that we actually have existing.
And I agree that having the ARB have a play in it as well as the
Yep.
planning commission, and we make a final decision. But
Yep.
I think their input's very important.
Yep, okay. So maybe we'll make that more as a directive,
Okay.
for that. All right. I think we touched on all our items here. Yeah, so with no objection, we'll go ahead and close our work session. Adjourn, yes. So you'd like to adjourn. Her minute track has to adjourn it, so.
Motion to adjourn the work session.
Second.
Okay. Councilman Shannon, any discussion, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, great, thank you all. We'll be back at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Hey, Steve.